Another edition of Riding Home, a spring break edition, Matt DeBary. A busy week with Easter, spring break, etc. But a busy week too at Georgia because you had the first scrimmage of the spring. And let's talk a little bit of about what we're hearing, which is a phrase we've used at Dog Post forever. And we have more details about this over on the site. But Matt, we're gonna spotlight two guys right now that we're going to talk a little bit now about what we're sort of gathering and take it from there. Number one is Jalen Kimber. So Georgia's in a situation where they need DBs, they need corners, and Jalen Kimber's a guy we should be watching.
Definitely. I think everyone wants to hear about five-star Keely Ringo, and he's a guy that I've talked a lot about. I saw him in person, but Kirby said, I think, multiple times now that he's a little behind the eight ball because of that shoulder surgery. Didn't
Right.
have spring practice all last year due to COVID, and he's just now having real practices at Georgia. So as good and talented as he is, it's still going to take him a little bit of time. But the other guy who they signed in that class was Jalen Kimber, a four-star out of Texas. Long, athletic, can really run, and I think he is a guy who is in a prime position to earn one of those starting roles. Of course, Eric Stokes, Tyson Campbell no longer on the team. They left early for the draft. We'll see how high they go. Hopefully pretty high for Kirby, but Jalen Kimber is a guy who I think could come in. This will be his second year, and I like the length that he has and the speed that he brought in high school. And he's just a smart kid. I think he's grasping the playbook more and more, and he's definitely a guy on defense, especially in that secondary where they need a ton of help. This is a guy that I think Georgia fans may not know a ton about because he hasn't played, but I think he's a guy who I think Georgia fans will definitely know about, halfway into the season, maybe early in the season, because I think he's going to play a lot, Dean.
Another guy that a lot of people are talking about behind the scenes is Carson Beck, which is, this makes sense because he's been there now for a year. There's been a lot of spotlight on people not named Carson Beck because he's not going to start in 2021, or he's not going to enter the season as the starter. I think something strange would have to happen for him to be the starter. And there's been a lot of discussion about Brock Vandagriff for good reason. I mean, Brock Vandagriff's a really good quarterback. But now, more and more, I hear a lot about Carson Beck, and we're going to talk about generalities here. We have some tidbits that I'm going to link down below and what we're hearing on Dog Post that you're going to want to check out for sure. Listen, we do a lot of stuff on here. We do a lot of talking. You're not getting the true value of Dog Post if you're not signing on to the website and even taking advantage of a $1 for 30 days membership or just $1 for one article. But Carson Beck's someone that I think has progressed quite a bit, and I don't think that can't be shocking, Matt.
It's not surprising at all. And people who have been on our website, dog posters for a long time, have known about Carson Beck for a while. He's a guy that I saw in person on Halloween, I believe, 2019, and he was outstanding through 4 touchdown passes. I know how good he is, and I've kind of been on Carson Beck's bandwagon from day one. Like you said, he's not going to start, but as we saw last year, you better have some depth at quarterback. Um, who knows what could happen, but JT Daniels is obviously the guy, and I heard that he did pretty well in the scrimmage too. But I'm also hearing that Carson Beck still is getting better and better, learning the offense more and more. Again, he didn't have spring practice last year, and as a quarterback, it's very much needed. He enrolled early, was hoping to get a head start, and he didn't have that spring practice. But he's a kid who could probably push for a starting job at most other schools. He's that good, and I do think it's a good deal that we're hearing good things about the backup quarterbacks. Now, I don't know who's running number two. It probably
Right.
is Stetson Bennett. I don't know who the backup quarterback is. We know who the starter is, but a lot of these guys are fighting for that backup role, and I think Carson's doing everything he can to win that job.
I think it's interesting. The details that we'll provide you over on the site are going to be a little bit more in depth than what we're going to talk about here. I think it's interesting though, just because someone is sort of surging or would be a starter in the future, doesn't necessarily mean they would be the two during practice. I think we've got one more guy to talk about here, but I'm going to sidetrack to Stetson, which is that Stetson knows everything, how to run the program, how to run practices. He's been doing this since the Rose Bowl season in 2017. He completely understands how to practice. And I can tell you, as a person who practiced a lot in college and didn't necessarily play. There's a lot of value in knowing how to practice, how to push your starters, how to annoy them, how to, we used to call it get into their balls, and just annoy them and make them go right when they want to go left. Stetson Bennett, now I've not seen a single snap of practice, and I don't know, but if Stetson's in there a lot as the, quote, backup or the number 2, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, he's a safety blanket. He has experience.
Completely.
And he probably still could lead Georgia to an SEC Eastern crown, depending on how good Florida may be. Who knows if Missouri and other teams take a step forward. But he's beaten Auburn. He's beaten Tennessee. He's won SEC games. So he is a reliable backup. He obviously had his issues against Florida, but he's an outstanding backup, I think, and a solid number 2. He's not JT Daniels, and I think we all know that by now. But it'll be interesting to see this spring who comes out as kind of the number 2, because I do think Carson Beck is coming for that job. But if you're the staff, you have to have some level of comfortability with Stetson Bennett. There's a reason he played so much and was the number 2 guy coming in behind DeJuan Mathis last year. So he does a lot of things well. There's a lot of things he doesn't do as well as some others. But I do think that the staff would be perfectly fine with him coming in if they needed him to. Maybe not against Clemson, but throughout the rest of the schedule, I don't think they would have any issue playing Stetson if they had to.
And then your friend Terrence Edwards had this to say. Here's Terrence from a day ago. He said, a lot of people, this is on Twitter, he said, a lot of people reaching out to me after I went to Georgia's practice on Thursday trying to get information. Well, here's a tidbit for you. Adoni Mitchell is going to shock a lot of people. Terrence Edwards, Wide Receiver Academy. Your comments?
A little surprising, just because, Lowe's 4-star kid coming in. He wasn't an in-state kid that everyone kind of knew about and watched a lot. He was from Texas, played at Tennessee, so still one of the most unknown guys from that class coming in. But he's one of the bigger receivers on the team. And the thing that I like the most about him in high school is the ability to get yards after the catch. When he caught the ball, he didn't just go immediately down. He's looking to make a play and take off with it. So he's got some length. I don't know how fast the guy is. I wouldn't call him a burner. But I think he has good ball skills, and he's a guy who apparently is, I don't want to say lighting it up, but from the people who are there watching practice and what they've told us is he's really impressed more people, for a young guy. And I'm not saying he's going to come in there and fill George Pickens' role. I don't think there's anyone on the roster who could do that, but it is nice to have this, freshman that was full of potential really start to show that he can make some plays early on. And we know the offense is going to do better than the defense this spring. Kirby's mentioned that multiple times, especially with a secondary that's so young and inexperienced. But apparently he's a guy who's really stood out among the receivers, and that's always good. I mean, Kirby told us the other day, even without Pickens and even with Jermaine Hurd, he said, our wide receiver room is okay. We're fine there. And now they have even more depth with this young freshman who apparently is making a lot of plays.
I mean, I think Terrence knows what a good receiver looks like and has authority to speak on these things, not just from playing the position, but successfully Georgia and beyond, but from the guys he's dealt with in Atlanta. I just, the spring is about finding. We already know what they've got with Zamir and JT Daniels and James Cook, and those are going to be hard things for defenses to deal with. The defense at Georgia, we already know Jordan Davis is there, and Devontae Wyatt, Malik Herring may be gone, but Nolan Smith, Trayvon Walker. I mean, these guys are going to be hard to deal with, and the thing about it is, though, now is when you start sort of figuring out, okay, we've got a few cracks. How are we going to fill in these cracks, and are these folks dependable? And we're just going to see. But make sure you're going to the site, because we're not going to give it away here. Our subscribers we value our subscribers over on Dog Post. Go check it out. It is well worth your time. I'm going to put the link below and make sure that you're going over there. I expect everyone to go take a look. Thanks for listening. Go to the website. We'll see you over on dogpost.com.